Okay, so we're diving into a memoir called An Average Life. But let me tell you, the story it tells is anything but average. It is a raw, unflinching look at trauma, heartbreak, and some serious danger. And somehow it's also a powerful guide to finding happiness on the other side of all that.
And right from the get-go, the author does not pull any punches. This is from the foreword, and it's less of an introduction and more of a declaration. It immediately tells you this isn't just a story about survival, but about defiance against odds that, as she says, are fatal for a lot of people.
Now just look at this slide. The sheer scale of the transformation is staggering. On the left, that was her reality just a few years ago. On the right, that's her life today. This is not a small change. This is a complete rebuild from the absolute brink. And the journey from that first column to the second, that's what we're going to unpack.
And that really gets to the heart of her story, right? This isn't just a list of bad things that happened. It's kind of a roadmap. How can someone go through an almost unimaginable past and still manage to build a future that's filled with love and hope? Well, let's find out.
So, our first stop is her search for connection. And let me tell you, this was a long and often brutal road. It was shaped by idealism, a lot of unrequited feelings, and some really profound betrayal.
This quote right here is so important for understanding her mindset. Her whole idea of love was cinematic, full of grand gestures and fireworks. But reality, well, reality rarely lives up to the Hollywood script, and that led to repeated disappointment and a whole lot of confusion.
And this is where that clash with reality becomes absolutely devastating. The story of Lacey is just a masterclass in heartbreak. It all starts with a weird meeting at a funeral, and then stretches on for 8 years. 8 years of unrequited love, of being strung along, all of it just building up to this massive betrayal at her own going-away party of all places. It all ends, as you can see, in a final dramatic confrontation.
So that search for a movie-style romance led to years of frustration. And after being taunted by her friends, she just made a decision that took love completely out of the equation. There's no romance to see here, just a stark, transactional reality. She paid for the experience. The point here isn't what happened. It's about the feeling behind it. This quote just shows this deep-seated pain and regret. This longing for a normal experience, which ties right back to those cinematic ideals she had. It's a memory that you can tell really shaped her self-worth for years and years.
And this search for connection, it was all tangled up with our next big theme, the struggle for identity. And this wasn't just some internal battle of self-discovery. It was often a literal fight for physical survival in places that were actively hostile to who she was.
I mean, it's hard to imagine a more hostile environment than this. After a DUI, she got 200 hours of community service. But she hated the placement so much, she made a choice that seems, honestly, unthinkable. She traded it for 9 days in a men's jail, all while she was secretly transitioning.
Yeah, this slide is chilling. It's a literal survival guide she had to create for herself. Every single step is a calculated move to hide who she was to avoid violence. Just imagine the constant state of terror, having to consciously hunch over, put up with whistling and threats, all just to stay safe.
And this right here connects that physical danger to the deep emotional toll it took. Now, this quote actually comes from a different chapter about being mislabeled as gay by women she was attracted to, but it applies so perfectly here. The experience in jail was the most extreme version of a pain she felt all the time. That soul-crushing weight of the world trying to force you into a box where you just don't belong.
Okay, so the jail story is an extreme example for sure, but it wasn't a one-off thing. Her life was filled with this pattern of chaos, some of it self-inflicted, some of it external, that constantly put her in danger. Let's just run through a few examples.
First off, there was self-inflicted danger. This quote shows a pattern of really reckless behavior, a kind of fatalism that was born from her deep unhappiness. It's like she knew the consequences were coming, but the pain of the present was just too much to think about anything else.
She also experimented with hard drugs, and what's really telling here is that it wasn't for pleasure. She says she did it out of idiotic peer pressure, which is just another example of that soul-crushing need to fit in, even when it meant doing things that went against her own well-being.
And then you have the external danger. This is a direct quote from a friend during a camping trip. She was surrounded by people with this pitch-black sense of humor that often crossed the line into genuinely terrifying territory. She was constantly having to navigate these really toxic and unpredictable environments.
So, after all of that chaos, all that pain,
How in the world do we get back to that happy, fulfilled person we saw at the very beginning? This final section is all about finding meaning and turning all that suffering into a real source of strength.
This quote, wow, it's just incredible. It's not about forgetting what happened or excusing it. It's about reframing it. This is the how. She literally takes the pain that others inflicted on her and turns it into a lesson, into a moral compass. That is a profound act of emotional alchemy.
And eventually, she took her private story public. A friend of hers made a documentary about her life, and she asked for it to be put on YouTube. This number, 3,600, it isn't just a view count. It represents 3,600 people she connected with. It marks this huge shift from hiding in the dark to being seen in the light.
And this is what it's all building toward. The memoir doesn't end by looking at the past. It ends by looking to the future. Her ultimate goal, the purpose she forged from all that pain, is to create a legacy of safety and support for others. It's a powerful, hopeful vision that really leaves us with a final thought. What can we build from our own broken pieces?